Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. I'm Rob,
I'm Randy.
and we're sponsored by Trap and Roll Soap Company. Once again, hey, go Trap and Roll, look at some of their products, and just he's coming back. Trust me. Get your head start, get your soap now. But he'll be back in the States making soap. I don't know. Between now and next year is in like next December. I'm kidding. He'll be back sooner than that. But check them out. Links in the description. So we're joined today by a very special guest, somebody who has basically eaten up half of my paycheck in the last few months. So I'm very excited about this. So Mike Reilly from Gen X Refined uh, is honored us with his presence to talk about him, his business, his clothing line, and basically why I'm wearing almost nothing but their stuff right now. So Mike, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Sure. Thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be here.
So before we get started, could you give us kind of a little insight into how you started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or martial arts in general, and then what kind of led up to where you're training now and what you're doing?
Sure. I think, like a lot of people, I had seen UFC one, and I was like, I need to do this. Like this, it was just mind blowing, right? To see you had never seen anything like that. Obviously, boxing was huge with Mike Tyson and everything going on with that. But now you see this, like street fighting going on. You're like, I want to do this. Like I would love to do this. And It's always been a dream. And my kids started getting older, and I found myself sitting on the couch. I was working out a lot, but I was really craving something more. I didn't know what it was. And One day I just showed up at TFTC. I'll never forget, Brad. It was the middle of the day. I knocked on the door. Brad's like, "What? We're not open." And I was like, "I want to come." And he'll tell you the story too. I was just like this wide-eyed guy, like, "I want to do this." And he's like, "All right, here." I'm like, "No, I want to sign up right now." He's like, "You don't even want to do a trial class?" And um, that was it. I walked in, met Randy, and I was instantly hooked. I remember being so scared because the TFTC and Brad have a great program where they don't just throw you in to start grappling right away and hurting yourself or hurting somebody else. And I was there for a month, and Brad was like, "All right, we're gonna grapple." And I remember he was on my back, and he just put his arm around my neck, and I tapped, and he's like, "I haven't even done anything yet." And I was like, "I don't want you on my back." And it was just this feeling of just being overwhelmed, like trying to learn a new language. You hear people say, or trying to learn how to play checkers, or just anything like that. But now, on the other end, you got somebody who's there to submit you, and I was instantly hooked. I would go 5 days a week, like other white belts. I was signed up for tournaments, and I just dove in, and it really gave me. I mean, you'll hear everybody talk about this now, a sense of purpose, but it just the people that you meet at jujitsu, it was like an instant bond. Like I was like, these are my people. I want to do this. So that was probably 5 years ago. I say four because we lost a year of actual training with COVID in there. Um, but yeah, so I was instantly hooked of kind of chasing this dream of being able to handle myself and show my kids that even though I was 45 years old or whatever it was, you can still go after your dreams and do what you love to do.
Nice. And so you said like the 5 days a week thing. I always enjoy the like how did you feel in those first like I'd say few months trying to do 5 days a week? Was your body just hating itself or like did you kind of adapt pretty quickly?
So I was a little crazy. I was doing 5 days a week, early bird workouts, and then I would do 5 days a week of jujitsu. And I will tell you, it was so hard to get out of bed. Like you hear people tell these stories of like their bones hurting, and I played football in high school. I was an athlete, and you remember being sore, but this was a whole new level of sore. I'm like, why do my ankles hurt so bad, and my hips were like killing me? And it's just because you're doing these movements that most of us sit at a desk all day, right? And now you're on the ground, you're standing up, you're getting thrown down, and my shoulders and elbows were an absolute disaster. Like I thought I literally like tore my shoulder off, but it just wasn't. My body wasn't used to it, and I was overtraining.
when you say early bird workouts, what were your workouts consisting of in the morning?
Oh gosh. Yeah. So it would be deadlifts, kettlebell swings, squatting, lifting. I mean, I was killing it at least 45 minutes a day with those type of, rowing machine, doing these really hard ass workouts. And then being like, okay, I'm just gonna, go about my day and now I'll go do jujitsu at night. And it just wasn't, they weren't, they were not complementing. My workout regime has totally changed, my mindset and doing some more work on central nervous system. But I was doing probably what everybody else was 4 years ago when we all started following, guys like Jocko and everybody else. It was get in the gym, kill yourself, and then, oh yeah, come back and do jujitsu.
Mhm.
Which is, like it is doable, but it's also, like you said, very difficult. Sometimes you wake up and when you say like, oh, you're like, oh, I thought I ripped my shoulder out. I always remember, like, even still, depending upon like how hard I roll some days, I'll just like my forearms, not the muscles, but the bones hurt. Just
Mm,
like from doing was ago, because I've been trying to do nothing but straight ankle locks and like other stuff, for all class. But yeah, I mean, it does build up after a while. Were you do like any recovery stuff during that time, or just kind of just
uh,
gritting and
no,
bearing it?
so I mean, we're all, as we get older, I think we all think we're still 20 years old, 19 years old, and you're like, who needs to, I mean, my generation stretching, it was non-existent, right? Even before any sporting events or anything, you're like, okay, let's, you'd run a lap and you're ready to go. And I was not taking care of my body. Like there was no real recovery, and it really, I got slowed down by my body at least a month into it. I was like, this is not sustainable. And I didn't know why. I was like, what is going on? And then you finally, like, I'm like, I am 40 something years old. My body needs time to recover. And then I started really focusing on, I think I bought a Hypervolt, like, or a Theragun or something like that. And I started watching, I remember Jordan was like, "You got to do some yoga, man." She's like, "This is, you can't even get your hip." Like if I tried to play close guard, I couldn't even touch my feet together. Like I was like, oh. So it really forced me, and I really think it helped me to shift my mindset and get into functional workouts and functional mobility. And then once I started doing that, now I was like, okay, you got to train to jujitsu. Sure, you can deadlift and you can do all those great exercises, but you better be, doing something overhead to get that extension, whether it's hanging from a bar or something like that. But yeah, that's really I hit a brick wall pretty fast.
Well, I think it's good. I think that jiu-jitsu schools, martial arts schools in general, don't put enough stress on the importance of strength training and physical fitness. But then on the flip side, if you leave people to their devices, students to their devices, that's what ends up happening sometimes with people is they get bought into it, which is fantastic, but then they get carried away in trying to be all these things at a super high level. And it's like, you know, I learned the hard way too, very much the same way you did. I learned at about like blue belt levels when I kind of figured it out was that I was trying to do CrossFit and Olympic style weightlifting and jujitsu and Muay Thai, right? And be a police officer all at the same time. And I was young. So I lasted a pretty long time doing that. But eventually something had to give. And that's when injuries started happening, overtraining started
Mm-hmm.
happening, loss of motivation started happening. Things it's eventually you're going to break down no matter how stubborn you are. And then you start to realize, okay, I have to balance this somehow. Like I think it's important to train in strength, in fitness, in addition to jujitsu. You can't rely on jujitsu to be your everything, but you can't try to do everything at a super high level unless you're Jeremy Seth. Then, you
Yeah.
know, for some reason that guy can do whatever he wants. But
He can.
I
It's starting to catch up to him as well, right?
yeah,
You see it with him. But
yeah,
yeah, I think, you know, a lot of us, I can definitely tell you the three of us here, we see, we gravitate to social media, whether it's Jocko, David Goggins, or all these guys, and you're like, yeah, I got to get up at 4:45. I got to do this thing. Well, guess what? You're not them, right?
yeah, yeah,
That's a great motivator to get you into the gym or into jujitsu. And
yeah,
but guess what? Sleep is really important.
yeah,
And you may need 8 hours sleep versus 4 hours sleep, and minding your body, like listening to what your body is telling you. Like you just, after a while, it just does not work. And, I've really spent a lot of time, probably the past year, really just focusing on, listening to my body and being like, okay, you know what? You had a killer workout this morning. Guess what? Don't go to the lunch class today. Like, don't ruin it as much as you want to. You know what? Give yourself 6 hours between workouts. Go home, hydrate, eat, do all the things that your body's craving, and then see if you want to go that night. And you know what? Like you said, I started feeling it at Blue Belt too. I was like, wow, I'm not getting injured anymore. Guess what? And I'm starting to move better. And my jujitsu game actually changed as well, which was wonderful, because then I wasn't like, because you almost develop bad habits because you're trying to protect the things that are hurting, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, well, I'm not letting them grab my right arm and put me in a Kimura, right? So you're doing weird, and your jujitsu game is affected. If your hips aren't open, you're not going to be good at guard passing or guard retention. So I think it all works together, but it's you have to figure out what works best for your body.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is kind of like one of those interesting like paradoxes as well. Like, like you said, a lot of people do like follow a lot of these social media personalities. I don't even say influencers because they're like, I feel like influencers don't give a lot, but like some of these people, like you said, like Jocko or like David Goggins, or I mean, hell, just even some of the more basic people, just say, hey, just get up, go out, work out. Like you don't have to follow exactly what they do to a T.
Mm-hmm.
Like getting up at 4:30 is, if it work, like you said, if it works for you and it's fine, great. Like I get up at 4:30 to go to work, unfortunately, because I got to be there like real early. So like working out before work, because one of my friends does that. I pretty much have called him a psychopath because he's like, yeah, I'm at the gym at like 2:30 a.m. It's like, yeah, when you go to bed at what, like 7 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like what's the benefit there? Like, but it works for him. Whereas for me, I
Mhm.
have to, I'll get up for work, and when I'm done, I'll either, I'll roll, I'll hit the rowing machine, I'll go to the gym and I'll lift. It's just something. But like you said, as long as you're doing something and listening to your body, that's where I feel like you said, all your the biggest I guess gains and improvement in your jiu-jitsu and your lifting and whatever you're trying to do is where you find it. Because for a while, like you said, I'm not 20 something years old, and when I started jiu-jitsu as white belts, it was basically, can you and I start on opposite ends of the mat and like run at each other as hard as we can and like try to, whoever rips the Kimura the hardest first usually wins. Like that's really it. And then
Yeah.
like I'm paying the price for that now, because all it was is just you can look at my arms and I will tap because just my shoulders are so done.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember how bad your hands hurt when you were a white belt from gripping the gi so hard? I
Oh yeah.
remember coming
Mhm.
home and putting my hands in ice because I was like, I can't. I'm like, I got the GI Joe Kung Fu grip over here. I couldn't get my hands to open up, and I was like, is this normal? And everyone's like, stop gripping the gi so hard. And I'm like, I don't think I am, but you're probably right. But yeah, I forgot to mention that, like the hand pain of just just constantly. If you ever played guitar, it's the same thing. Like when you first start, your fingers are killing you, and then all of a sudden, you're like, wow, they don't hurt anymore. Now your knuckles might be swollen all the time, and you're starting to develop jujitsu fingers. But I remember that being like one of the things that stuck out to me when I was a white belt.
Do you play the guitar?
No, I did for a while back in '92, I think. I loved it, but then my instructor wanted me to teach me musical theory, and I was like, I just want to play Nirvana.
Yeah.
Like,
We could definitely agree on the choice in music. I think that's actually a perfect segue too, is, um, Gen X Refined obviously has a kind of a base theme of rock and roll and jiu-jitsu, and I love that because I love rock and roll and I fucking love jiu-jitsu, so it's perfect. Um, how did you come up with that? What kind of made you connect those two things together?
yeah, so that's a great question. Gen X Refined started out as Gen X Grappling Club. Remember, like I remember showing up at that shirt, and everybody is like, "That's really cool." And I remember Thomas was like, "I'm not wearing anything with Gen X Grappling Club. I'm not, I'm not Gen X." And I'm like, "You don't have to be Gen X." And I was like thinking to myself, "This isn't going to work." One, I went to register the domain name. It was way too long. And then
Mhm.
two, really started thinking and looking at designs. There's some great jujitsu apparel companies out there, right? But the secret that I'm learning now is you got to pick a niche, right? What's going to set you apart? And I started coming up with these ideas in my head. I can't draw to save my life, but I found some designers and I was like, hey, take this skull and roses, take this, jujitsu move, and let's mash them all together. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this is something that two things that I love. I love rock and roll music. I love jujitsu, and now I can take this and put this together and put it on quality apparel, and that's where Gen X Refine was born. I mean, Randy, we love to rock out, rolling, and it's just
Mhm.
I never realized how big music, not just rock and roll music, could be reggae, rap, whatever it is so. I mean, I've been to a lot of different gyms across the country, and there's always music playing, right?
Always,
It just
always.
it's always playing. We might not all agree, but we just want to listen to something that kind of gets you motivated. And for me, I was like, Iron Maiden. Think of the album covers from the '80s and '90s. Megadeth, Iron Maiden. Go down the list, and they were it was amazing artwork. So let's just take those two and smash them together, and lo and behold, it works. So that's kind of how I ended up here with a rock and roll inspired jujitsu apparel company.
And I think it works out too because I hit Randy up because we both got shirts. I said there's one thing that really sets it apart too is that I'm not getting like shirts or the hoodie, the one you're wearing, the one I rock all the time at work. Like it's a good quality. Like the beanie you just put out is a Carhartt beanie. Like I'm not getting like, hey man, what can I get for $3? And you just put my logo on. Like just do that. And like
Yeah,
it's good quality gear on top of it being, like you said, just something we haven't seen before in MMA and jiu-jitsu clothing apparel. We always joke on the show about like, the more skulls it has on it, like for like the MMA stuff, I know people are interested in that, but like, I don't need tribal barbed wire, like
Yeah.
touch me
It
first lesson is free type shit. I don't want to
it
wear
definitely doesn't
like
it doesn't have the affliction vibe, which I love. I love that
yeah.
it has a badassness to it, but it also has an artistic vibe to it. And I think it's important that you don't go too far into one or the other. You know what I mean? My favorite current design by far is the even flow, but I know that Rob is not a Pearl Jam fan. So
why are you telling him, man? You can't
It's all right. It's the only shirt he doesn't own in his closet,
it
so that's
really
fine.
is.
But I mean, we won't hold that against you. Don't like Pearl Jam, but I really appreciate you guys picking up on the quality because we've all been there before. We see an ad and we're like, I want that, and you're buying it and you get it, and it's a Gildan T-shirt. They
oh,
probably paid $1.50 for it. You
yeah,
throw it in the washing machine and dryer once, and you're like, what happened to the shirt?
yeah.
Or you buy a gi, or I mean, I haven't gotten to gis yet. It's coming, or rash guard, or shorts, and you're like, in my head, I was like, what am I doing? I'm like, I want to do this. I mean, I always
Mhm.
had a passion to, own my own business, and I was like, let's find quality stuff that I would wear. And that's what I always tell people. Like, if something is wrong with the material or the fabric, or you don't like it, we'll refund it. That's fine with me. But I'm telling you, you're going to get these shirts. They don't say that, they're not the standard shirts you would get, but guess what? They're really good quality. And, you know, I love what I do. I can't get away from it. And it's stuff I wear all the time. Like you said, this hoodie, everybody who has this hoodie is like, I don't take it off. I mean, I sent I think Brandon McGaffern has one, and he did a video the other day, and he sent me a note, and he's like, "I love this hoodie. I don't take this hoodie off." So to me, that's the biggest compliment that folks are noticing that I've taken the time. I had no idea about the apparel company, but I like clothes like everybody else, and I have a friend, my friend Jay, that I grew up with, who owned a t-shirt shop, who really let me get in there and feel the texture of a t-shirt, or feel the hoodies, and that allowed me to really put out quality stuff. Same thing with rash guards and shorts. I found it. I could have went the route of, you know, I get messages all the time from folks from Alibaba and Pakistan, and they're like, we want to do, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. I have a day job, right? I'm not going to wait 3 weeks for you to send me some rash guard, and I'm pulling on it, and I can see the seams already, shredding. So I found another guy who's already has that in, his repertoire. He's got that all figured out, and guess what? I'm going to use him for rash guards, gis, and shorts. So, yeah, and it's done well, and folks are noticing the quality, not just the designs. They're noticing the quality of the clothing.
Dude, the rash guards, man, that rash guard, I think I told you, Mike, in person, but I'm saying it on the air because it's important. That rash guard is top notch, man. Like, it is the perfect blend of like durability and thickness without being so crazy heavy. That thing fits amazing. And obviously all the sublimated logos and everything on them, they look fantastic. But that has to be the nicest rash guard I have in my drawer. And I've got you name the brand, I probably have a rash guard.
I was going to say, you are definitely a rash guard expert and a gi expert. So hearing that from you, and I've said this before, thank you. That's a compliment. And again, it was, this stuff is not cheap, right? We're paying, we all work to buy the things that we love. And the last thing I want to do is put a rash guard on you and someone's pulling on the sleeves and you come back to me and be like, yeah, the arm basically just pulled right off, right? We all have had a rash guard or even gis where the knees are blowing out, right? Mm-hmm. You're like, I had this thing a year. The stitching's coming here. So it's one of the most important things in what I put out to everybody else.
Yeah, like for the shorts, I do like the short design as well because so I did the full Ronin's visage like combo day. I'm like I will say it's very difficult for me to have matching tops and bottoms in Nogi. There's just a lot of shit, right? But I was like, no, I want both today. Let's see how this rocks. One, I got compliments on it, but two, like put through its paces, and like Randy was saying, it is a really good just like quality material as far as, like I do a lot of weird like splits, like S-card stuff, and it like I've had no issues getting my legs moving around in it. So
that's good. Yeah, you got to send me some video of you rocking it. I'll put together a reel. We'll put you on the page. I mean, you're one of my top customers, so definitely should give you some hits out there. But yeah, again, the shorts were the same thing. I mean, everybody has their favorite short wear, right? I'm not rocking 5-inch shorts. I don't have the legs for that. They come up a little bit high, but nobody wants shorts that are coming past their knees when they're rolling, or you're constantly playing with your shorts. So I could have went the Velcro route, but we all had those, and you're like, I can't get the Velcro to stay. Your rash guard's getting stuck in it. So it really forced me to think about, okay, what's comfortable that is durable and looks good, and ended up with what you guys are seeing on the site and what you guys are wearing.
Yeah, those shorts are awesome. The 4-way stretch, the drawstring, like that's the way to go with no-gi shorts nowadays. I mean, we were talking, I think it was the last episode, me and Rob, about like the old school days of like tap out and sprawl and all that stuff. And man, in that time, those were cutting edge. Those were amazing. But we've learned so much over the years. You still have companies. It's probably the ones from what you're saying, they're calling you from like Alibaba and stuff that are, they're not doing jiu-jitsu. They're just trying to sell product. And they're sticking with things that aren't functional, and I'm just not a fan of those types of shorts anymore. Yours, those are perfect, man. I don't. The length is right on them. They're light, like super, super light. I wear a pair of spats underneath them, and you don't even know those things are there. I mean, I feel like I'm rolling around naked with Rob.
That's good. That's
dude.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's interesting. So I'm currently researching a pair of joggers to do just. Nice. Obviously, and I ordered a pair from a knockoffs of another one from Alibaba, one of those places, and I was wearing them, and my fiance is like, "What's the matter?" I'm like, "These are not breathable. Like my legs felt like they were on fire." So then I'm trying to get them off, and they're stuck on the bottom. I'm like, "You're gonna have to go get a pair of scissors and cut these off." She's like, "So I guess you're not selling those on your site?" I was like,
nope.
No way. So, and that's really important, is to like test this stuff, like get it in people's hands. Like I love that you guys are wearing this stuff and giving feedback, and pretty soon there's going to be a gi, and love for you guys to test it out, because that's the feedback I want. Nobody wants to be in something in jiu-jitsu and be like, I don't know about you guys, I don't like there are some people that like this heavy stuff on, whether it's a
Mm.
gi, whether it's a rash guard. I mean, you're hot enough from, exerting yourself. You don't want to be sitting there like feeling like you're wearing 100% cotton on top of what you're, sweating already. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty awesome.
You talk about feedback as well, and I mean, I think this is a good little segue into something we had talked about before because um, I know you'll send me messages, ask questions once in a while. And I remember asking you, like, any chance of a ska or punk shirt? Because everybody knows that's who I am. And he said, yeah, actually, maybe, but I do have a funny story about almost dying at a Boss Tones concert or something like that. Like, I really want to know what it is because I'll say this, like every ska show I've been to, minus like one, and it was just a weird one-off. I was at Punk Rock
Hmm.
Bowling last year. What was it Streetlight Manifesto was playing? We're like, in the circle pit, just skanking our way around it, and some dude just
Yeah.
grabs somebody else and just bull rushes him out of the circle pit and throws him. And everybody's just, the hell is this guy's problem, man? Like that's not what this is about. We just keep just going back to it. So like I want to know. I gotta know what happened.
Yeah. So, but I remember you sent me that note, and because I love suggestions, right? It starts creativity, and you're like, "You gonna do ska or punk?" And I was like, "What are you thinking of?" And you were like, "Boss Tones," and I like Bad Religion, and I was like, "I love the Boss Tones." Like I was one of the biggest Boss Tones heads, but yeah, I was thinking about this earlier, so I get this story straight, and I do have witnesses that were there, but they were playing. It was '94. It was the Question the Answers tour.
Yeah.
So Sad Silence, like just all their like great. That whole album is when you just throw it on, and we were waiting for them. So I've never seen them before. I'm all amped up. We're at this club on Long Island called Malibu, which was basically like a dance club some nights, and then they had a stage other nights, and so we're doing the whole Mighty Mighty's Boss Tones chant for them to come out. And I'm like, when they come on, you guys throw me up and I'm going to crowd surf. And because they let everybody dance on stage, they wanted you to come up, dance, and you dive off. So they come out, they're rocking, and my friends throw me up. I'm crowd surfing like Superman. And I grab the stage, and the bouncer drops an elbow in the middle of my back.
Oh,
So I fall down on the ground, and I did have a couple of cocktails, so I probably didn't feel it as much as I should have. But I fell on the ground face first, and I look up, and it's raining Timberland boots, and I'm like, I couldn't do anything. I just kind of turtled up, and Dickie, all I hear is Dickie say, hold up," stops the entire concert. And he's like, "Let that kid up." And I'm like, "Oh, who are they talking about?" And he's like, "That kid right there, let that kid up." And he's like, "Get him on the feet." And he bouncers finally back up. I get up, I'm dusting myself off, and I jump on stage. And he's like, "Are you all right, man?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." He's like, "Good." And he looks at the bouncer. He's like, "You touch another one of these kids, we're gonna burn this fucking place to the ground." And starts playing. And all I hear is my friends in the back. They're like, "Reilly, oh my god!" And he's like, "Dance up here as long as you want." So just started playing, and here I was dancing on stage. So that's my finest concert moment
holy
right there.
shit.
That's
Almost died,
freaking
almost,
awesome.
yeah, yeah, it was. But my buddy, like, it was pretty scary. Obviously, you get blindsided. Like, these bouncers are not small, but the fact that, this is when people really started to be aware, like artists started to be aware what was going on in the crowd. Because
Mhm.
I remember being at Iron Maiden concerts or Megadeths, and you get in that pit, and it was, you didn't stay long, especially someone my size. But people started, artists started realizing folks were getting hurt at these concerts, and next thing I have that in my history books that I stopped the Boston's concert because I was getting the shit kicked out of me by bouncers.
That's amazing.
Well, I mean, it kind of makes me feel better that it wasn't like, you know, the people there watching the show, but dude, like some bouncers, we get to go in one of my tangents. I feel like just some bouncers are there just to fuck people up for no reason. And it just
Mhm.
100%. They were there. Like, that guy had no reason to. I wasn't even. All I did was touch the stage, and he didn't. You know, he went red and just was ready to kill me. So it was quite an experience. But I think, concerts and crowd surfing really started to get out of hand in probably the mid 90s. Like people would like pull your legs apart, and when girls were, so it was really a changing time of like, you started getting these younger kids, not that I was that old, who were just so violent in this, and it kind of took away from what you were trying to do and just have fun. Like no one's there fighting in a mosh pit. You're just, well, they do, but it was just a chance to, it was started to get rid of some of your angst that you had, when you went to a show. So, it wasn't a brawl, and I've seen plenty of those, but it was some douchebag bouncer wanted to kill me.
A couple of the shows I've been to where they had moshing, I've noticed. I'm not a big. First of all, I love rock. I do. I'm a big Foo Fighters fan. That's my favorite. They don't really mosh at Foo Fighters concerts, so that's kind of out. But I did go to some other shows. Some of my friends are in metal, and I've gone to a couple of those shows. And when they mosh, one thing I've noticed is there's almost like a code. Like I've seen it where somebody gets knocked down because they get bumped into really hard and they lose their footing and they fall. And people will help them up like quickly. They'll help them back to their feet. And if they're good, they let them keep going. If they're not, they kind of push them out of the circle. And I can respect that. I'm not a mosher myself. I'm not really into that. But I can respect that there's a code to it, and that's pretty cool that the artists are taking note. That's pretty cool.
I mean,
yeah, Dave Grohl is a big one. Like there's videos of him on YouTube, like
kicking people out of his show, and
and it's great because you know what? Now you pay a lot of money for a concert. Like I don't need some meathead. Like,
oh yeah. I just bought tickets to the Foo Fighters because they're coming to Raleigh for me and Brittany, and it was like $500 for the two of our tickets. So, like it is what it is.
Yeah, I'll be at that show too.
Hell yeah!
Wow,
yeah, man.
Must be nice. I tried buying tickets and they're all gone. So.
Oh, you can always find them. You got to go on like StubHub and shit.
I'm not. Well, you guys paid $500. I don't want. I don't want to think about what's going to be around.
It was $500 for two tickets, and I'm like, I'm not where I wanted to be. So, real quick, brief story for me. It wasn't Dave Grohl, unfortunately. I wish it was. But I went to my very first Foo Fighters concert. I've been a diehard fan since middle school. I've wanted to see him forever. Just never played out. But I finally get a chance because they came to Greensboro. This is maybe 5 years ago, something like that. They came to Greensboro, get tickets. I was seeing a girl at the time, so I got two tickets. She broke up with me the day of the show. The day of the show, she dumped me.
How dare her?
And like I was so crazy about this girl, so I was actually legitimately pretty upset and emotional about it. But I'm like, it's the fucking Foo Fighters. Like I'm going to the show. I've been waiting my whole life for this. So I go to the show with I got two tickets. I'm just going with my one. And I'm sitting there, and I had got regular seats because it was in the Greensboro Coliseum, the indoor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm in there, and I'm like, these seats aren't really what I want. Like I got these because I was bringing a date. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is not what I want. So I started looking on my phone for other seats, and I'm looking at the prices. I'm like, God, these are so crazy. And I find one, and I go to the usher in my section. There's like this lady standing there, and I'm like, hey, I want to get different seats. I want to upgrade. I don't like these seats, but what do I have to do to like get them? I don't understand what I got to do. I mean, just buy them here and then I just walk there, or how do I scan in? And she's like, honey, why would you want to get new tickets? You have seats right here. These are good seats. I'm like, these seats are trash. This is my favorite band. My girlfriend broke up with me today. I'm here by myself to see my favorite band. I will pay whatever I need to pay to get better seats. And she's like, hang on one second. She walks away. She comes back. And she goes, how do you feel about floor seats? I was like, what are you talking about? I would love to go down there, but I can't afford that. Those are like $600. And she reaches into her little sweater she had. She pulls out a wristband. She slaps it on my wrist. She's like, go straight down these stairs. That security guard right there will let you out. Have a nice concert. And hook me up with floor seats for the Foo Fighters. Dude, I couldn't talk the next day.
that was a crazy. I was there. That was their 3-hour show with the entire catalog.
It was amazing.
I was there. That was a great show. Yeah.
Dude. And everybody, I'll tell you this, I had the Foo Fighters, at least at that concert, everybody on the floor, they were awesome. Like if I wanted to get up near the stage because they were playing one of my favorite songs, they would let you get up there. And then you just rotate out, when it was time for you to get a beer or whatever. Nobody gave you a hard time. Everybody was freaking awesome. It was still to this day my all-time favorite concert moment. Unlike, I would take an ass kicking to get acknowledged by Dave Grohl. So your example still beats mine, but yeah.
Yeah. So I gotta ask. So Rob, how did you get into Bad Religion? Because I mean, I remember seeing Stranger Than Fiction on MTV, and I was
Yeah.
like, who is this band? And I bought that. It was probably a CD back then. It wasn't tape yet. So that was like 91, 92, around there, maybe 93. So how did you get into Bad Religion?
So I can kind of blame my cousin, who's actually from Long Island as well.
All
And
right.
when we go visit him, he's like, "Hey, here, listen to this." And I'm like, "What is this?" He's like, it's No Effects. Or, hey, it's Boss Tone. Like, he's the one who got me into a lot of it as well. And like between that and then like when I went to high school, I was kind of like a kid. Like I came from private Catholic school. My parents, like, bless them and everything, but they're like, "Hey, this music doesn't fly in this house." So I'm like, who do I know? What do I listen to? Like, I don't know. And being the weird kid from the private school going straight to public school, it was like the punk kids who kind of helped, like, they took me in. They were really nice about it. But so I mean, between my cousin, high school, and everything, that's kind of like how I got introduced to it. I'm like, yeah, this is the music. This is the stuff I enjoy. And just
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think everybody has that, and that's the best thing about music. I mean, I was telling somebody this, I think it was Anthony at the gym, who, was born a little too late. He's such a big grunge head. And
Hmm.
I was telling him the story. I remember 1987, I was visiting my sister in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania, and we were going to get some beers. And one of her friends was like, "You got to listen to this song." And he put a tape in, and Smells Like Teen Spirit came out, and I was like,
oh shit.
"What is this?" And he was like, "This is some band out of Seattle called Nirvana." And I'll never forget. I remember, I can tell you the details, the car I was sitting in, what the temperature was like. I mean, it was a life-changing moment. And I had the same thing with the first time I heard Iron Maiden. There's Led Zeppelin, rock and roll. Like, there's so many songs. I think everybody can relate to that. That you remember that exact moment, and it's the same thing in jujitsu. Everybody has a song they love to roll to, right? I mean,
Hmm.
me, depends on what mood I'm in. You can ask Randy when I take over the DJ at the gym. There's some nights I'm like, oh hell, we're going some heavy metal here, to the point where Brad's always like, "What are we listening to? Get this off." But then there's some nights like I'm like, Beastie Boys is perfect, and
Hmm.
it's such an it weaves so much into our lives, whether you're in your car, hanging out with your friends, and it's I mean, music's awesome, and we got a great selection of it now. And the fact that I can go to my Spotify, I mean, folks are out there. They're like, "Do you have a record collection?" I'm like, "I did back in the '80s," and I don't want to have to flip to the B side to hear my favorite song by Iron Maiden. I'm pulling it right up on my phone. So it's for me, as a rock and roll and music fan. It's a great time to be alive.
You're right though, man. Music, and that's why I think it's such a perfect blend, jiu-jitsu and rock and roll. Like, and everybody has their genre, and it doesn't. I'm not trying to knock on the other genres because I listen to a little bit of everything, but I am definitely a rock and roll fan first before everything else. And you're right. The grunge era takes me back. My parents hated it. I had a group of friends that brought me into the world of Nirvana and Pearl Jam and, like Beavis and Butthead and Wayne's World. And, my parents freaking hated it. Oh my God, they hated it. When I go home and, you know, talk about TP from my bunghole and shit. And but, you
Kick
know,
me in the Jimmy. Yeah,
dude,
that's
I was the black sheep in the family for sure on that end. But and it takes me back. I could smell the cigarette still in the back of that freaking station wagon. You know what I mean? Like, and I didn't
yeah.
smoke them. That was just my friend's mom. She smoked them. Like, it was just a different time. But I think jujitsu and rock and roll and music in general, they both have a tendency to bring people together. And I think that's why it's such an awesome collaboration that you're doing between the two. Which you also have a kick-ass Spotify playlist, the Gen X Refined Spotify playlist.
Oh, I'm glad. So, yeah, that's got a little bit, like you said, it's got a little bit of everything. It's got. I mean, it was when we were training. What was that, 2 weeks ago on that Friday night? And I was like,
Mm.
What mix is this? This is really good." And you're like, "This is yours." And I was like, "I don't remember putting that song on there," but
Yeah.
it's cool. And then, and also, like you said, I mean, it's nice to be able to talk to people that you would normally not talk about music. Just think about it. Like, here's Anthony, he's what, like 24 years old, and here I
Yeah.
am, a 50-year-old man, and I'm looking at him, and he's like, "Did you ever see Soundgarden?" I'm like, "I did with Blind Melon. It was pretty awesome. It was raining that night. It was a great concert." And you could just see like
Hmm.
it was everybody has a story, and usually that story revolves around music, or it's kind of it was playing somewhere in the background. So it's a natural fit, and honestly I'm surprised someone hadn't thought of it before me, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm glad that we know you. That we get to see it evolve. We get to see where it's going. Like get to
Yeah.
see it from the beginning. It's
Yeah,
very cool.
you guys have been great, and I love the fact that I love to be able to like bounce designs off people, because it's nerd, like you're putting something out there, and we all know the internet is not kind, right? And
Hmm.
to have really good friends and buddies that you can be like, hey, what do you think of this one? Because the last thing I want to do is throw something on the site and people are like, what is this? Like, this is terrible. So I think it's really helpful just having this whole uh, group of friends that are kind of there enjoying this with me, and you all get to wear like really good stuff, and we get to do stuff like this. It's pretty cool.
Can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek, a little hint of some things to come, design
Oh
wise?
yeah, I will. So I just got one. There's this artist. His name is Jeremy Kramer. He does a lot of tour posters for bands like Smashing Pumpkins. He did Grateful Dead. I mean, this guy is legit, and I just got his design tonight, and I will tell you this: I have figured out with his help how to combine the Rock'em Sock'em Robots with Jiujitsu, which is going to
Nice.
be it
That
is
sounds
amazing.
amazing. That sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
that's there's going to be a little teaser. Graffiti or Rollaway was my best shirt by far. That was my first one, still the one I love.
Mm-hmm.
Graffiti 2.0 is coming out. That's going to
Nice.
be, I shared this with Rob the other day, but I love giveaways. The best part about this is, I read somewhere, I forget who said it, maybe it was Alex Hormozy or whatever it is. Give away something your competitors would never give away, right? So that's why you see my giveaways. Like, I love like the jean jacket I gave
Mm-hmm.
away with the skull and roses on the back. So took the new Graffiti 2.0 design that we just teased on Instagram, and I put that on a skateboard deck. So that's going to be a giveaway of Graffiti 2.0. And then I tried to do a couple of simpler designs this year, because I've been getting a lot of requests of, I love your stuff, but I don't do jujitsu. And I was like, okay, so
That's good.
how do we kind of take this one is, I don't know if you remember, the club was called CBGB's in New York City. It was like, look it up, some of the best bands that played. So kind of took their pretty simple logo and overlaid what I wanted to do with Gen X Refined. So that one's coming out. So right now I've got 4 designs that are ready to go, but kind of just took some time to kind of take it all in of what I was doing this year, and I dropped a lot of designs last year. So it's kind of nice to sit back and say, okay, this is what we're going to do for this year, and it gives me a chance to kind of archive some of this stuff. Like Ronin's Visage will go away. It will come back at another point, and maybe it comes back with some on different clothing or different apparel. But it's kind of cool to I went through the past, what is it, September I launched this thing, how everybody has reacted. And now it gives me a chance to be like, okay, when I release this, it's going to be, a new hoodie. Maybe it's the same. I know this quality is great, but different color, different design. We'll do some rash guards again. I was just talking to my rash guard partner today. So, and like I said, there's a gi coming. It's going to be, I like simple gis. I'm going to make sure it has ripstop pants, because we all love those.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be getting a sample of one of those. So there's a lot of good stuff coming this year.
I'm excited for it. As you know, I'm
Me too.
probably once again, giving out my paycheck all the time,
Right.
but I'm okay with that. But before we finish the episode, Mike, could you tell them where we can find you, your social media, your webpage, stuff like that?
Sure. So webpage is genxrefined.com, and then at genxrefined on Instagram, Facebook. I am on TikTok, which feels really weird because I am way too old to be on there, but I know why these kids get sucked into it. I'm actually I'm really surprised. Just one thing I wanted to mention is, I launched this thinking my niche or my audience or customers would be people in my age range, but the data is showing it's 25 to 35-year olds that are the folks that are most intrigued by this, which is pretty awesome because I have a 24, 21-year-old daughter and a 19-year-old son, and I see them. Retro t-shirts are coming back. Like this style is coming back, which makes me really happy. And it kind of just falls in line to what we're doing. But yeah, so genxrefined.com and genxrefined on Instagram.
And then you got the Spotify linked on your Instagram, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I actually noticed that I got to make sure that one was still working. So we did some changes. We just launched a new site. I switched over to Shopify. We did a whole rebranding, different color scheme. Loved the way it came out. So things are rocking and rolling. One other thing I forgot to mention, I'm going to consistently strive to do like 1 or 2 band shirts and really kind of like we did with Even Flow was, take Even Flow and, but, take a lyric or something from the song. And that was perfect. Put the butterfly sweep in there and the butterfly lyric. So there's a Nirvana in a hopper, right? So it's going to have to do with In Bloom, which is a great song. So, and then Rob has inspired me to do, I love the Boss Tones album. So we're going to have to do something. And the Boss Tones will be coming to the Gen X Refined playlist because I can't believe I left those guys out.
Rob's already seeing money. He's already setting aside money for the Boss Tones, and I'm definitely
set aside. So
I'm definitely setting aside money for the Nirvana shirt. So that's already a done deal.
I'm pumped.
Hell yeah.
So Mike, once again, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is a blast having you on here talking about your wild ideas that I love. Like it's so good, man. I'm like legitimately, I know I've said it a million times. I'm very pumped for a clothing company that's like going a jiu-jitsu clothing company that's taking the direction that you're taking.
Well, I appreciate it, guys, and thanks for having me on. I'll come on whenever you want.
Hell
yeah, we'll definitely get you back on here, man, for sure.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Yep. So,
thanks,
ladies
Mike.
and gentlemen, it's been this is another episode of the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. I'm Rob.
I'm Randy.
And you can find all of our old episodes on Spotify. You can find them on your favorite podcast player, whatever you want it to be. Our YouTube will have all the links in the description. And thank you for listening. And we'll catch you guys next time.